Hello everyone, and you're watching Bitcoin Bubble News channel. Michael Saylor said he would make $13 million in 21 years, which is the same amount of money I think I will have today, $2 million. It's too late now. It's over. You can't get out of this debt mess. Right now it's locked in. That's all from Greg Foss. You can follow Greg Foss on Twitter for more of his work. We'll hear more from the 30-year financial expert and find out what he thinks about what's going on with Bitcoin in the markets. Before we do any of that, please follow us on Twitter at please give us a follow, we value it. If you haven't already, start following this feed. Thank you for your help. Also take a look at bitcoinbros101.com. To go over something again, we have social links and information for you. If you get a premium Patreon pass, you can join the Bitcoin Bubble group. We have ebooks too. Get this book, Getting Started with Bitcoin and Crypto's Ultimate Beginner's Guide, if you're new to crypto and want a guide to help you along the way. You can also get one-on-one quick downloads right away if you want to get a little more technical and start reading technical analysis. Greg Foss is famous for saying that Bitcoin could reach $2 million, which he says is possible. He's talking about this and what Michael Saylor said when he said he would win $13 million. He also talks about how China's local governments are in shambles because they don't have enough cash and how this could hurt the US economy and other things. Let's hear more from Greg first before we look into this video more. Michael Saylor said he would make $13 million in 21 years, which is the same amount of money I think I will have today, $2 million. Because I just said dollars of today. To get from $2 million to $13 million, all he did was add interest on top of interest for 21 years. Or not him, but that's how maths works, okay? That makes interest on interest the eighth wonder of the world. I don't know who said it, but it's true. Because interest builds on itself, your debt is growing at a very fast rate. It's already over, it's too late, you can't get out of this debt mess. Right now it's locked in. People have said that the US should just sell all of its land and get rid of its budget gap or debt. Who wants to buy? Who has $35 trillion to buy all the land in the US? No one. Long term, it's easy to guess what will happen. In the near future, in the next 2 weeks or 2 months. In the US, there is an election coming up, and the instability around that will be very interesting. I'll leave you with the word stagflation. It's something that almost no one has lived with, so I hope it's not true. Be careful. I'm not sure what to say. And anyone who thinks they do needs to change the possible results of the risk. The new power rule and all the things it brings up were not talked about. I'd like to say that I look at what the power law does. While I won't disagree with it, it is one of the things that goes into figuring out where Bitcoin should be priced. Using credit default swaps to look at Bitcoin in today's dollars, national debt wasn't quite 2 million US dollars, but it's still a lot more than it was back then. Bitcoin is trading at about 63,000 US dollars right now, and I still think it's incredibly cheap. I did something wrong, people will keep making mistakes out there. You should always look at the 2-year bond as a guide for a rate that is managed by the government, like the Fed funds rate. Okay, so the difference in yields between the 2-year bond and the Fed funds rate used to be 5.25 to 5.5 basis points. It's now 50 basis points lower, but there's still a big difference between the Fed funds rate and the current 2-year rate, okay? The last time I checked, there were 160 basis points or 1.6%. This gives Jerome a lot more room to move to catch up to where the market thinks he should be. That's the shop. That makes moves every day. He makes rules. Every month, or not for 60 days at a time. That's also the direction of the dot plot. In other words, he did cut by 50 basis points and everyone told him, oh my god, you must be mad. It would have been great if he came out and cut by 3/8. It had to be 25 or 50 basis points. Everyone said, hey, that's a pretty cool numeric number, 37.5 basis points with 3/8. You should have really shown him the way. With the cruise in hand, it would have been epic if you had just cut 3/8 right. He should have gone 50 basis points, but you didn't do it. Because of the difference between where the 2-year note is trading and where the current managed rate is, I think he should have. They can see that the economy is weak. Okay, I have some personal proof. I was on holiday in Maine, and it was the least crowded Labor Day weekend I've seen coming into New England in the last 10 years. There were not as many travelers, so eateries were not nearly as full. we have to wait 90 days to get a spot. Okay, but if you really want to, you can come in tonight. This kind of nonsense is going on. All economies should have been cut, not just the American one. Do they know what's going on in China? And knowing that China has been the world's growth leader for the past 10 years, and China has 19 million condos that are empty, even though the birth rate is going down there. So, who is going to live in those China stock markets that are crashing and real estate prices that are going through the roof? That's not being talked about. So, does the US tell everyone else what to do? I'm afraid they do. What should we be most worried about? Lack of growth? I think this is something we need to really look at. Mark Moss also talked about this on your show. When rates aren't kept high enough to stop inflation, he worries about the inflation part. That is why I believe stagflation will happen. Jamie Dimon feels the same way and thinks the same way. I think it was Jerome Powell. It's still too early to tell if he'll be the best Fed head. However, he has planned a landing that has not been a crash landing in the short run. I think that's great of him. I think it's way too early to say that it was a success though. And it's because of places like China, the chance of stagflation, and random facts like the US restaurant index, and the low end of consumer loan worries about the low end consumer. All of these things make me think of things I need to look for. He is talking about the Chinese economy because it has an effect on markets around the world and on the US economy. He thinks there will be stagflation, getting turned off the idea that the global economy is going to experience hyperinflation. Will the stagflation that Greg is talking about be what the markets are preparing for?